Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're talking Week 7 waiver wire. We've got a few pickups for you. On this show, we like to only talk about players that are owned in 40% of leagues or less, because in reality, most of these guys above them seem to actually be owned. It's hard to get them. So we're going to talk about some guys that you might have a realistic chance of getting here. So let's talk about some players that aren't that great though this week, to be honest, Jeff. It's not the biggest waiver wire week we've had, but there's a few guys. So and also we got bye weeks, right? There are bye weeks. So that plays a factor where some of these guys you got to use. The bye weeks this week are actually going to be Bills, Chargers, Cowboys, Jaguars, I think Steelers, Vikings. At least there's a few teams. Those are the ones that are off this week. So you're definitely have a few out there that you got to replace. So here we go. You know what? I don't necessarily have like a number one target this week, to be honest. I'm just going to throw some guys because I don't think there's a guy I can be like, yep, this is the top guy. But one of my favorite options probably would be, if he's out there, is going to be Rashad Bateman, who had his debut, had 4 catches for 29 yards, had 6 targets. Nothing amazing, but out of the players that'll make a waiver wire list, he is by far has the most upside by far of anybody, where we could see him really starting to make an impact. You don't expect him to do it in week 1, but just seeing him involved and getting 6 targets in his first game is a big plus for me. So Bateman's probably, if I had to pick a guy, is my number one pickup for the week.
Oh, I mean, it is really, really thin this week.
Yeah,
I would agree, man. You go for the upside. You go for a guy that was highly touted. That offense could use him. I like the way he fits right now. So I do. I like that you got to see something immediately. So I don't think there's any other way to, around it.
Yep. So Rashad Bateman, the most upside, I'd go pick. If you have spots in your bench, I'd have him on my team for sure. So other players here, I'm going to go after. Yeah, there's not a lot. I'll go talk about some running backs quick though before I get to some of the receivers I have, just because this is in case the Browns running backs are out, right? Chubb missed this past week. Hunt was hurt. We don't know the status yet. We don't know what Chubb's status is going to be for next week. If they were to be hurt, if they were to be out, so Dearness Johnson becomes an option. He showed a little bit last year when he got an opportunity. It's a good run offense. You'd have to think he's going to be valuable, and like he's not going to be Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but he's going to be a solid option, especially if you have players on bye. So Johnson would be an option. And actually I would look at Dimitri Felton. I like Felton, and he's already been involved when Chubb and Hunt were there. He's obviously a different player than Johnson. He's not going to be a lead back, but you would just have to think he would have more of an impact. He'd have more of a role. But again, this relies on some injuries, right? Johnson and Felton become much better options if Chubb and Hunt are out, which we probably won't know until the weekend. So because of that, it makes you don't want to spend a lot to get these guys, right? But Johnson would, if we knew Chubb and Hunt were out, Johnson's my number one pickup for the week, but we just don't know that. And I have a feeling Chubb will probably play, but there we go. Johnson, Felton. How do you feel about that?
I mean, not great. Not great. Yeah, whoever's the starting running back, you can definitely plug him in. But I do not feel all that confident about it.
I don't either, but I think Johnson would actually, he would be okay for you. He would, he'd be fine. I don't see why he couldn't perform like a Khalil Herbert's performing for the Bears. Honestly, I could think he could do that. Herbert. I mean, I'm saying the touchdown and the 90 yards necessarily, but in a similar way. Like I don't think Herbert's that much better than Johnson necessarily, but.
Yeah, if he gets all the carries and they don't go into a pass-heavy offense all of a sudden, you never know. But yeah. I mean, if he's going to start and you're in a rough shape at running back, I'm sure a lot of people are, especially with buys, he's definitely going to be one of the top targets.
Yeah. So T.Y. Hilton was another one who, if he hadn't gone out with an injury, he would have had to be on this list. He had 4 for 80 when he first game back, but he got himself hurt again. The only difference was he was available. They said he was available for post-game interviews, which usually they don't do for guys who are hurt very, with more serious injuries. I don't think it's going to be too serious for T.Y. Hilton, but it still is T.Y. Hilton, right? We still worry about injury, obviously. That's what seems to happen with T.Y. Hilton. no one can guarantee any health. If he was healthy, I think he would be a great pickup. But hey, I would still take a shot on it if you're desperate this week and go pick up a T.Y. Hilton, Jeff. I don't think you seem too excited about that though.
I mean, I liked what I saw today. I really did. But I mean, the last couple of years just haven't been the same TY that, and I guess you don't need that if you're picking him up right now. You're not expecting him to be, TY Hilton of 5 years ago. So yeah, I mean, he's a little intriguing. That team feels like they're starting to go in the right direction and throw a little bit more. But once again, it does feel like they're run first. They were beating up on the team already. Everyone was doing well. So I don't want to put too much stock into it. I don't think that he's going to be that high volume guy. And even though he's very fast, it just feels like he's way too injury prone at this point in his career.
Right.
But I mean, I agree. But, because there's other people that I would kind of like AJ Green. I know that he's not a sexy name anymore, but if you look at what he's been able to do, I mean, 4 out of the 6 appearances, he's had viable numbers. He's been in double digits in standard. He's caught 3 touchdowns. He had 1 week where he went over 100 yards. He's been pretty good and on a very good offense. I think I would rather go with someone like that if you're just streaming right now.
Yep. Well,
so that's kind of where I'm at.
Funny enough, the next people on my list were actually Cardinals receivers.
all of
yes,
them.
All of them. The Cardinals, except for Hopkins, obviously, but Cardinals
Christian
receivers
Kirk
playing against the Texans this week. So with all these buys, and then you get the Cardinals playing against the Texans, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore all become interesting. And I think I have them in that order, to be honest. It's Green, Kirk, Moore for me. AJ Green's just been solid. He's been solid. He's been steady. He gets himself a touchdown every now and then. I think, if you have bye weeks this week, I mean, you have a lot of receivers out this week. Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, all these guys. Shoot, keep going down the list. All the Steelers receivers, all the Vikings receivers. There's a lot of good receivers out this week. You could have teams that have multiple of these guys. I remember looking at week 7 when we were drafting, and week 7 just stood out to me as like a lot of good players are going to be missing. And here we are. So you might be starting AJ Green this week. So pick up one of those. I think if you actually start AJ Green with the options that I'm seeing, you'd actually feel a lot more confident than some of these others. How about, because the next one I'm dropping down, I'm going to like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's about my next option. He was 5 for 46 this past week. He had another 7 targets. That's 23 targets in 3 games. That's solid numbers, but it's only 26 yards and there was no touchdowns. And it's the Lions who have been poor. But if you're chasing some sort of volume, there's some there for St. Brown. And I think he's going to continue to see that. Him, or even, I guess, Khalif Raymond, if you really want to be desperate for the Lions. But I'd go St. Brown over Raymond. But yeah, I like St. Brown. I really think he's going to keep seeing more and more.
I agree. I mean, right now, not someone I want to put in my lineup, but he is someone I keep checking back on. And if you have a roster spot, I think it'd be fine to throw him on there if you have the spot to see how does this guy shake out, because you can get him really cheap right now. The only other name that comes up because he's barely under our 40% owned is Marquez Callaway. He was dropped by a lot of people because they had their bye this week.
Yep.
He'll be back. They're a very spotty offense, but it does feel like he is the guy that is benefiting from, kind of being the only guy in town at the moment. And even though he doesn't get as much volume as I would like, he does have some big playability, which you saw last week against Washington. He had 2 touchdowns. Against New England in week 3, he had a touchdown. So, and then before that, in middle against the Giants, which, not exactly teams that you want to make your resume on, but he had 2 for 74. So he's kind of that big play guy right now. It's been paying dividends. So they're going against Seattle. I would be willing to roll the dice with him because of everyone being out.
Yep. KJ Osborne could be another option if you want to throw somebody in. Or never mind. What am I saying? KJ Osborne's on bye this week.
Right.
KJ Osborne should not for this week, but I still think he's an interesting pickup because he's had 3 good weeks now this season. 3 out of 6 have been good weeks. So, he's still an okay option. Quez Watkins for the Eagles. I'm really going down here.
I was gonna say, now we're getting
Quez Watkins had 3 for 44 off 5 targets. He's been getting like 3. It's not great numbers, but he's like 2 to 3 catches, but he's still there. And he's had sometimes you're desperate, right, Jeff? Sometimes you're desperate. So I don't know how deep these leagues are. You never know.
Yeah.
So there's some others. It gets ugly this week. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones. One was a Hail Mary, I know. He had 2 touchdowns though. So
yeah. And once again, if Hunt and Chubb are still out, I do expect him to throw a little bit more. I mean, that is the running back is someone to pick up, but I do expect him to lean a little more heavily on, that passing game.
One name I'll throw out here, even though he's actually over 40%, but I just want to throw him out real quick. Michael Gallup comes back probably in week 8. So still like 2 more weeks. He's been on IR all year. So he's like 55% owned, but he's been dropped. I feel like he's actually owned in less of active leagues. I feel like that 55% in ESPN is a lot of people that drafted, and actually haven't made moves. So Michael Gallup is an interesting one if he comes back. That offense, is solid, but he's still going to be the number 3. The volume's not going to be maybe amazing, but he's an interesting option. If you go down to other running backs, Randre Stevenson, I would probably at this point have Randre Stevenson rostered if he's not, just because of the fact that Damian Harris seems to be a little banged up. He's playing well. Nothing about Damian Harris. If out there, he's going to be the guy, right? And Stevenson will have a minimal role. But if Harris continues to be banged up, there could be that week where all of a sudden he's out and there's Stevenson, he gets a shot. I don't know how great it would be, but I really feel like he should be rostered at this point. Just in case, right? If you have the spot, Stevenson. I'm not in love with that one, but you could see, I wouldn't be surprised to see that, 100+ yards and 2 touchdown day from him. Honestly, it could happen. And then the next week you'll never hear from him again, but that could happen for him. And then other names, if you're desperate, Mark Ingram's there. I'm telling you, if you're really desperate and you got buys, he's had 34 carries the last 2 weeks. There's a lot of volume there. It's not great volume, but it's volume. And sometimes you just hoping, hey, maybe I get 50 yards today. And that's all you hope for. So that's all you sometimes want, right? And actually, I posted last week a post about most red zone carries this season, and Mark Ingram's a top 10 back for the most red zone carries in the league. So, hey, there's that. Maybe he gets lucky and gets a touchdown for you. Other names, so Antonio Gibson went out with an injury again. We'll see if we don't know if it'll be out this week or not. If he were to be out, this gets a little deeper, but Jarrett Patterson his role increases. I still think JD McKissic would obviously be the back to own there, but he's not an every down guy. Patterson would definitely get some work, but that's getting down there a little bit. And then Le'Veon Bell, I'm going to throw his name out. He had 8 carries. It wasn't great. It was like 8 for 18, I think, but he got a touchdown. But even just having 8 carries is more than he's been getting. I think we know what we have in Murray. It's a very average back. Devontae Freeman, very average back. Le'Veon Bell's probably done, but there's just that sliver of hope yet, right?
Yeah. For this week, we'll allow it.
There we go. And then I have some streaming options here. What do you think here? Let's go to quarterback. I'm going to pull it up. I got a couple that I had off the top of my head here. Tua playing against the Falcons, I think is interesting. And then the other one, Mac Jones. I'm telling you, I think Mac Jones has been okay. He's playing against the Jets, but there's another one. But I'll give you the other ones. This is where I wanted to see what you think here, because that's what we're looking at. Other options.
I don't mind the Tua pick. The Tua, I think, is a very intriguing one. I'm still not on the Mac Jones one. I would not be able to put him in my lineup if I can help it at all.
See, let me go to 50%. Let's go to 50% for streaming, because let's just go there. Let's go 50%. So that starts us off at like Baker Mayfield. Actually, he's under 50% now playing against Denver, but he's been hurt. He got hurt in this one too. I wouldn't trust playing Baker Mayfield. I'd rather play Tua against the Falcons than play Baker Mayfield against Denver. What about
okay. I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, I'd rather Derek Carr against the Eagles. You're gonna go Derek Carr?
Yeah, I would rather go Derek Carr.
Sam Darnold at the Giants. Nah, not after what I saw from him. Before I would have, but I don't want to do that. Or Daniel Jones against Carolina, same game. Daniel Jones versus Sam Darnold. You want Tua over those guys, or do you want one of them
right
over
now?
Tua?
I can't. Man. Yeah, I don't really like either of them. If I had to choose between the two of them, I'd probably start Darnold. I don't know. Daniel Jones scares me after getting that concussion, having two really, really poor outings.
Yep.
Carolina, even though they are on a losing streak, it doesn't feel like they're giving up a ton of points. I don't know. I don't like that game in general.
How about Matt Ryan though against Miami? Matt Ryan has to be your option.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Matt Ryan.
Yep. Justin Fields against Tampa, not touching that one. Trey Lance plays against the Colts. I need to see something from Trey Lance before I'd play him. And Jameis against the Seahawks. I don't trust Jameis. Wentz against the Niners. Wentz, I'm not against Wentz. I've been playing Carson Wentz, to be honest, but I don't know. There's some other. Then Mac Jones against the Jets. I'm telling you, I think Mac Jones is gonna have a day. I think he's gonna have a day here. I know you're not there, but there's a lot of those guys. You'd pick a lot of them over Mac Jones, I'm guessing.
I would. I mean, even, you go further down. I mean, even Teddy Bridgewater doesn't feel like a terrible pick compared to Mac Jones. Like, I think there's more upside. I think he's going to throw the ball more.
Something with Mac Jones this week. Maybe don't play him, but just watch. And you know who told you.
Maybe. If he goes off on this one, I'm going to be like, okay, well, know what?
Go. All right. How about some streaming defenses this week? Here we go. Defenses. Cardinals are about 50% owned. They're playing against the Texans. There you go. Right. If you can go get that, you go get that. Simple. Right. Simple. 49ers playing against the Colts. It could be I could see it having a good outcome for the 49ers, but I could see the Colts scoring some points too. That's one of those that can go either way. Right. Packers against Washington. I kind of like that one with what I've seen from Washington recently.
Yeah. I agree with it. I kind of like that one. I think while they're hot, and the Packers have been looking pretty decent on defense for the last couple of games. So
yep,
I'd ride that wave.
But that honestly, I don't have many other options other than that. To me, that's about it.
I can't believe the Cardinals are only owned in 50% of leagues, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. But I say those are like the only streaming options I see. Cardinals against Houston, Packers against Washington. Then you probably go 49ers against Colts, because after that, it's like the Bengals against the Ravens. You don't want that. Washington, you're not playing Washington. You don't care who they play, but they're playing Green Bay, so you're definitely not doing it. Raiders against Eagles. No, because I feel like Jalen Hurts just will get points at the end. It's as bad as it could be. Dolphins against Atlanta. No, I don't want anything to do with that.
I know either way you cut that one, you're kind of
like, you don't want either side of that. You don't want the Bears against the Bucs. You don't want the Titans against the Chiefs. You don't want the Chiefs against the Titans. There's just nothing. You don't want Seahawks against the Saints. Just right. There's just no options there.
No.
It's Cardinals, Packers, Niners. That's about it if you're streaming this week. There we go. Waiver wire week 7. You always get one of those. You get one of those every year, right? That's just
not a lot of good options.
And funny enough, I already posted the list on Instagram. Got one comment so far. That's it, because people aren't commenting, probably because we usually get quite a bit of comments, right? This one's just not getting a lot of comments. That's 472 likes in the last hour, but only one comment, because no one cares. And the only one comment says waiver wire sucks this week. That's for sure.
Not incorrect.
We're with you. That's why I blew all my money on Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah. That's one way to look at it.
Hey, this is the week it pays off too.
I was going to say, he could come back.
This is the week. But all right, there we go. That'll do it for week 7 waiver wire. Mailbag is the next show. So if you guys want to get your questions in, go to Instagram.com/fantasyfootballprofit. Look for the post that we'll have up asking, post your questions for mailbag. Email us fantasyfootballprofit@gmail.com. If you're on YouTube, youtube.com/fantasyfootballprofit. Comment on this video. We'll get your questions as well. But that will do it for today. Talk to you guys next time.